Hello, investors. June 13th. Wanted to take some time to give some account updates, but I also wanted to start something kind of different today. I wanted to talk a little bit about trading psychology. Um, I'll have some of these links below in the description. Uh, Definitely suggest watching these. These are from Trader Tom. Um, it looked like a recording of a conference he did. I had never heard of him before. I just kind of stumbled upon it on YouTube. Um, some really good stuff in there. Um, and for me personally, I've been working on my trading psychology and trying to figure out more than just the numbers. Because trading seems to be very psychological. And I kind of came into it with the thought that it was just about the numbers. And I've kind of paid the price here and there for not paying attention to my own psychology and to the reality of what was happening in the market that day. Um, my $2,500 challenge, I ended up staying in a position too long, and I had gotten that account up to like $4,000 from 2,500, and then let a position run too long that I thought was gonna go the other way, and ended up burning it down all the way to like $700. So that's the price of, beyond just paying attention to your risk management strategies, of not paying attention to your psychology. Uh, so one of the phrases I've kind of taken away from that series is more of a question, two questions. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be profitable? Because it's easy to put in money and say, all right, it's come to this level, now it's going to turn the other way, and it just keeps going against you and against you. And it's easy to add to those losers and keep thinking, well, I liked it at $5, I really like it at 4, 3, whatever, and you're just adding to your losers. Don't add to your losers. If you're wrong, cut your loss and start betting in the direction that it's moving for that day. You have to set that ego to the side and stop saying, well, I know. Pay attention to the market. Ask yourself those questions as you're adding to your position. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be profitable? Now, obviously, there's going to be times where you're in an uptrend or a downtrend, and it's going to pull back the other way. And it might cause you to exit too soon, and you'll miss some profits. So it definitely is a balance. And I've been personally working on that. Last week, Thursday, it was mostly a flat day, but there were actually a couple of large bars on the SPY, and I had taken some puts at the top, and it had this big drop down, and I actually tried to add to that because I thought that was the winner. It was a big direction. I had taken a little bit of profits off at some point in that move down, and then I added more to a slightly different put position, and it kind of stalled out at the bottom, and I waited too long, and then the next 2 or 3 candles were almost vertically back up to the same level. Basically, wiping all the profit I had just made, and I ended the day with actually a small loss, which was a real bummer, having been up almost $3,000. Now, that was my Webull account. That wasn't my challenge account. But I'm going to give at least a general overview of my accounts. I just wanted to kind of start here with the psychology piece. And again, I'll have these links in the description below. And yeah, I feel like that's becoming more and more important, of being able to deal with losers, deal with your risk management strategy, and saying, yep, it sucks to cut at that 25 or 30% loss for that position, but that's what's best. And that's what I did in my Webull account last week. Was Thursday, I almost had a great day, but didn't take profits because I got greedy. And Friday, I was in some puts at the very beginning of the day, and it trickled down, and I took profits too early, and ended up burning those up, trying to get into some calls, thinking it was going to bounce back up, and it just kind of traded sideways for the rest of the day, and I took a loss on Friday. So, I mean, for the overall week, I came out up, but it was a frustrating week. And that's what you have to deal with as a trader. And you have to be careful of your ego. Try to take profits when it's reasonable. Try not to be greedy. And ask yourself the questions. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be profitable? So I feel like that's kind of a good intro to that long list of videos that I have below. And Trader Tom does a much more in-depth, and obviously it's his story, so he tells it much better. So that was kind of the first part I wanted to talk about. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the trading community in general. I've put warnings in some of my other videos, but I've been failing to put a reminder, so I want to do another one now, of don't give your account information out. I will never ask you for your account information. I do have a Discord. If we want to have conversations there, that'd be awesome. I would really love to trade ideas with people, bounce ideas around about trading strategies. It's just really frustrating because the handful of times I have been contacted on Discord, it seems like it's just, come look at this Bitcoin group. We're pumping and dumping today. Or, hey, do you want to copy trade? No, I don't want to copy trade. I want to learn how to do it myself. And I'm not going to give out my account information just because you say you have this good strategy to copy. That's not for me. So I just wanted to put that word of caution out there. And if you guys do want to chat and join the group, I've accepted some friend requests, but I haven't gotten much response from those people. And like I said, one of them was just asking me if I wanted to copy trade. So just be careful out there and use your best judgment. So I wanted to go ahead and do a quick overview of a few trades in my Weeble account that I had just mentioned. I know I mentioned before doing more educational options videos, and I still would like to do that. But my strategy, all of my strategies so far have been pretty simple. Trading the wheel strategy with cash secured puts and covered calls. And I can go over those more in depth in the educational series. And simple calls and puts on, well, last week was the SPY because I thought I had found some interesting levels. And like I said, came pretty close to having like a $3,000 day, which would have been really nice. It just, some of those more complex strategies just haven't fit my style. So I don't want to try to explain something that I don't use on a regular basis, because I might steer someone wrong by explaining it only partially. Now, I'll continue to find and post good resources for any kind of strategy, but I think whenever I get to those videos, I'll start with the wheel, because that's what I've been using the most in my Weeble account. Besides last week, I did some day trading strategies on the SPY, just trying to track it up and down in its current little range that it's in. It's been in this very tight range, which can be very difficult to trade, but there's been some easier levels because it's so tight. When it's at the bottom of that small channel, I've been trying to take calls and wait for it to pop back up. And when it's at the top of that small channel, taking puts and watching it fall back down. And I had some decent entries, but I didn't get as much profit out of it that I would have liked, and didn't exit soon enough on some of them, and ended up taking small losses, or there was a larger loss I took because I entered calls that ended up going nowhere. So let's kind of get into, well, I was going to start with the order sheet, but actually probably be easier to look at the chart first. Let's zoom in here a little bit. So Thursday was kind of an interesting day. I missed most of this move up, and I'll try not to go into super detail as I do. Sometimes I feel like I overanalyze some of these past things and go too in depth. So I'm not trying to go as in depth. So I'll just kind of generalities here. I bought some puts. I think I tried to take some profits here, but I seen it continue to go down, and put more puts on, and a lot of them ended up getting bought back up, and even that momentum pushed it so far back up that it burnt most of those profits up. And I think I actually ended this day with just a very small loss, which was very frustrating because I timed my entry really well, but as I said before, I got greedy, and even though I seen it at the 200 EMA, which is always a strong point of either support or resistance, it was just too tempting to exit. And that's why I started this video with the psychology part. It's okay to take profits. So that's a big lesson that I'm taking away from this day. If I would have took profits and even turned around and started buying some calls, it basically did a perfect V reversal and ended up just kind of coming back up and trading sideways for the rest of the day. Could have bought some calls here and even had double the amount of profit. So it's days like that that are quite frustrating as a trader. I feel like even though I ended this day with a small loss and I ended Friday with kind of a larger loss, this was a more frustrating day than this. Friday, I ended up taking some puts at the beginning of the day because I saw it pre-market struggling. Because we're at all-time highs right now, it's very interesting because if it ends up popping up, it could have a nice push to the upside. So I was being very tentative with these puts. I didn't actually hold on to them for very long. Again, hindsight is 20/20. I kind of regret letting them go because it basically trickled down the whole first half of the day. So if I would have just bought and hold, I bought some at like 70 cents and they ended up getting to like $1, and I had several options at that level. So if I would have held them, that would have been a nice little return. But again, when you suffer wins and losses, it's hard to convince yourself to stick with those winners. You want to add to your winners when possible. So again, that's a trading psychology thing more than a numbers thing. If I would have just looked at the chart a bit more carefully, or even waited to a little bit further in the day to enter when that downtrend was more established, I could have gotten a decent profit even on what is essentially a flat day. Yet another V. These days are very hard to read in the moment because if we scan out to the day level, like these bars are, even if I drag this around and try to skew them, they're these tiny little ranges for most of the day. Like when we were just down on the 15-minute, this hammer candle is that tiny little V, but very difficult to trade, or at least for me so far. And maybe it's just an experience level thing. So I don't know what direction the market is going to go. I keep waiting for this drop. I've been concentrating on puts and have almost made some profits with them, even at all-time highs. So I feel like next week is also going to be a very interesting week. I actually want to pull up my ThinkorSwim chart on the SPY. Well, it's going to end up being the SPY and the future, the mini futures for the S&P 500, which they all seem to track the same because it's all the same underlying S&P 500 stocks. So, the ThinkorSwim platform has this nice volume chart that comes out from the side that I found, and it just kind of paints an interesting picture. So I'm going to pause for a moment and get that up, and we'll talk about that for a second as well. Okay, got my ThinkorSwim up. We're on daily chart for the past 6 months, and I have this volume profile that I found in the studies. Just go into the studies, search for volume profile, and add that to the side of your chart. I wish I knew how to manipulate it a little bit more, but I've kind of started to get used to the way it is, so I just kind of wanted to show these two large nodes that are kind of going on. I don't have a good vocabulary for the point of control yet. I know there's a lot of people who use the point of control and the top and the bottom as like to build channels or points of support and resistance, and even each of these volume nodes can act as little micro supports and resistance, especially when we zoom into like the 15-minute. And this will change depending on your time frame. It will be correlated to the time frame you're on. So I actually have some small drawings on the 15-minute. I've been putting little white boxes every day at the point of control just to kind of track if it starts to track up and down, but it's been super flat, and so has the market. But as I was saying before, it's very interesting levels. We're at these all-time highs, and the market is still slowly pushing up. So it had a little pullback at the beginning of the month, and it has pushed up again from there. Again, I would probably be a little biased towards getting some puts next week. For a pull, like if we're going to continue, especially to break through these all-time highs, it may pull back so that it can push forward, or this could end up being a double top, and we might pull all the way back to the point of control, down to, the 416 level, which would be, a 10-point drop. So that's why I've been a little bit more biased on the puts. Because, yes, it did break this all-time high from before. But it seems very flat, which might mean it's building some stability to go up. But even a small pullback to the 419 level, there's a pretty large volume node. So all these volume nodes they're kind of stacked in a way that's holding it up here. But if this volume starts to shift to selling, it could push it all the way down to the center here, which mean reversion, things tend towards their average. That's the word mean and the word average are synonyms. It means the same thing. So it could, just numbers wise and pattern wise, it would not be unheard of to have that kind of action. I mean, obviously, look at what it did last month, at the beginning of the month. Not only did it pull all the way back down through that mean, it fell down to this level of support here and came back up. Again, reverted to the mean, fell back down to this large node. So basically, this center point of control is the thing it's kind of rotating around. To the top of it, to the bottom of it. To the top of it, to the bottom of it. So this channel here is a good channel for trading. So if we want to break and hold against these all-time highs, again, I'm a novice. I can't say for sure that a pullback is coming. The puts, like I said, have made me a little bit of money, but it just continues to chop, chop, chop up towards higher and higher levels. So as that support gets thicker and thicker, it will be harder for it to be pushed back down. It just, these two big volume nodes, have a huge chunk here and a huge chunk down here. It's been known in the past, look at February to March. It pulled all the way down. This is the 50 EMA. This is the 200 EMA. This is the 50. This is the 20. And I think that is, let me double check my studies here. That is the 8. So it's been riding and following the 8 quite a lot. It's been respecting it. And had a few small breaks here. And then a definitive break. And once it broke that, it picked up enough momentum. It paused at the 20 and then just fell all the way down to the 50. And that 50 acted as a strong support and carried it back up to the 20 and then again on top of the 8. And it's respecting that again. So if it breaks this trend line, starts to get pushed below that 8, the 20 is very close, helping support it. So it may easily continue up. The 50, it's been spending enough time up here that the 50 is slowly rising up to meet it. So it may only fall to you know, this 419, 420 level. And that's a, you know, those even numbers are psychological level. So it is an interesting psychological level here. And it's same thing on the futures as well. We look at the futures, I have a few more trend lines drawn here from the longer term. Let's go out to a full year. So this is from November, kind of drawn a larger channel, the top and bottom and middle of it. Zoom in. There we go. A little bit easier to see now. So the futures are tracking a very similar way. They're the same underlines. So it's kind of trapped currently underneath this midline. So if it were to break that, you know, we could easily continue this uptrend to all-time highs. If it starts to break these smaller trend lines, I know this is a bit messy and hard to see. Basically, I have some smaller trend lines drawn over the past couple of days to, you know, a couple weeks, and they're all kind of telling the same story as the exponential moving averages of trending up. It's just been struggling to get through this midline. So if we have that small pull back, you know, that will end up supporting it, and that will be a low before it can push through again. Because it's been above that midline in the past earlier this year. Kind of double topped it, and that's what pushed it back. I don't know if that's a true double top, because you can see all these wicks trying, testing it and testing it and testing it. Fell down, and then had these two big candles in a row, and then just kind of fell back to that previous support down here. So since we're here in the ThinkorSwim, I'll go ahead and pull up the monitor tab, and we'll look at what this account has been doing. Like I said, I took a loss and ended up having to put money in. I got the account up to a couple from 2,500 to 4,500, and then let a position run too long, and it burned me. So I was down to about $700, and then even Friday I took a loss. Just trying to find a position, and just ended up chipping away some money on, getting out of positions that weren't going anywhere. So a little bit frustrating, obviously, but these are the frustrations we deal with. This is why many traders end up just losing money. They bleed their account away slowly or in these big bangs, really trying to avoid that. Again, that's why I started the video with, that talk about trading psychology. More than anything, more than even trading against the market, you're trading against yourself. You have to be very cognizant of your own mindset. So, try to stay off my soapbox and let's look at some numbers. The account statement. So let's look at the week. Let's pull up the calendar. So I took Memorial Day weekend. I didn't make a video. So let's go over those 2 weeks. At least in generalities of the larger picture number. Do 1 week at a time. As you can see, I ended that with $2,000 in the account. I know there was one point it got down all the way to like $700. This week. I also kind of found that you could just kind of click at the end of the week and it seems to give you the same number as if you were to go from the beginning to the end. So there's last week. I have to pull up my spreadsheet and see when I actually did the deposit. So I'll pause for that. So here's the spreadsheet for my challenge account. I made a deposit of $2,500 on the 9th. You can see my total realized. I'm down overall in this account. They seem to be calculating it a bit differently. I don't have any positions open, so I'm imagining that there's something off with the way I'm calculating things. But suffice it to say, that was a bit frustrating to see this account go from $2,500 to almost double that, and then all the way back down. So I keep learning these expensive lessons in risk management, letting losers run too long because of ego and wanting to be right more than wanting to be profitable. So that's kind of the biggest message, more than reviewing my challenge numbers or anything. Biggest message to myself and to anyone listening is set your ego to the side. Ask yourself that question. It's kind of become my new mantra of, do you want to be right or do you want to be profitable? If you see something going against you, get out of it. Go ahead and go the other direction. Go the direction the market is going. You don't have to sit there and wait for it to go the direction you thought it was going to go. Put your ego to the side and get in on a winning trade and add to that winner. So those are the things I'm going to be looking out for personally. Watching the market, what is the price action doing? Because, as you saw on my charts, they're a little bit messy sometimes. But just from watching it, the little bit of time I have been, is sometimes I'll see something that says, a buy signal or a sell signal, and it'll go the complete opposite way. I mean, obviously this is, not regular market hours, but here in the middle of this flat zone, here's a sell signal, supposedly. I mean, and yeah, it did drop back down, but it didn't give any buy signal. If you would have bought there and sold here, not long after the buy signal, that's a decent little profit. Now this sell signal, more legitimate. It's at the top of that range, and it fell down all day. So it's all about interpretation. This up and down, I already talked about. But I think it bears repeating that my ego got in the way. And my greed. I wanted that to keep going my direction, even though the action had reversed. Same thing on this uptrend. I don't know if it was this uptrend, or a very similar one in the past, where I saw it stall on some trade sometime in the past. I've seen this before. And I got in on puts and almost got burned. There was a different day where I actually had 2 or 3 candles back that I was lucky enough to get out. But I've seen this before. You don't know what the market's going to do. So be careful of your ego. Sometimes it's best to just wait and let the market tell you it's finished doing a thing, instead of assuming you know. There's that pivot point. No, it shot up again, and then shot directly back down. That's difficult to trade. So, I think I'm going to end the video with that today. Find me on Discord if you want to chat more. And I'm going to continue trading. And I hope to never figure it out. Because this is the biggest puzzle to solve. And there is no solution. And that's what makes it so interesting to me. So, may all your trades be profitable and your margin never be called.